And we're live. Smashcast number 61. Here we go. We have a very special guest today.
Very special.
Quintin Grillone. Is that how you say it?
Grillone.
Grillone.
Grilled cheese.
Grillone.
Grillone. What is that?
What is that? Yeah.
It is Italian.
Is it really?
Yep.
So it's not Grillone.
It is technically Grigione.
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 That's how you would say it.
I like it.
Okay.
But it just kind of got diluted, you know.
So is it Quintin
Longer.
is with an I-N or an O-N?
It's with an IN.
I-N.
Yeah.
And how do you say that in Italian?
I don't know. It's a good question. My grandma says Quintin.
Quintin. I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah, she's
I
heavily
like the
Argentine.
Grigione.
Yeah.
Grillone.
Hey, Tyler. How you doing, bro?
Happy to be here.
Good,
It was
man.
cool. It's been a minute.
It's
Yeah.
been a minute. I'm glad you're here, bro.
Yeah.
When's the last time you were on?
It was like
Many
a year
moons.
ago.
Really?
Yeah.
Probably.
Wow.
We'd have to dust off the
It was a while
annals and
Dust up the
cobwebs.
panels.
The annals, the
annals?
A-N-N-A-Ls. Yeah, the historical documents to figure out when he was last on. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a bit.
Well, we have gotten wiser, and we have gotten older.
Older, yes.
A little bit wiser. I hope we've gotten wiser.
Yeah, I think we have. Or at least more outspoken.
Okay.
So sometimes that can be, misinterpreted as wise.
Okay. Yeah.
I think we have been. All right, so we're all caffeinated to a very heavy
That
degree.
is true.
So
We are.
this is going to go unhinged.
Unhinged, really quick.
So what events do we have coming up?
Ooh. What events do we have coming up? Quintin, would you like to explain the events we got going on?
I know one that's coming up.
All
Which
right,
is going to
cool.
be the focus of the podcast.
Yeah,
Kind of
awesome.
the focus of the podcast
Let's
today.
do it.
That is.
So we have an event, a course, a seminar, if you want to call it.
Yes.
February
22nd.
Is that what we decided? 22nd. February 22nd. It's a Saturday. It's going to be at 3 o'clock. It is for everybody.
Nice.
So, families, girlfriends, wives, friends, brothers, sisters, co-workers, bring anybody you want. The purpose of the seminar that we were talking about is it is free. We wanted to offer this as a completely free seminar for anybody to come and ask questions. So a large portion of it is going to be split to just asking questions, so almost like an open forum.
Okay.
You come ask questions about anything tactical related. So any self-defense,
Okay.
home defense, firearms, safety, preparedness, anything along those lines. I will obviously be there. And then we have another gym goer,
Yep.
Mr. Matt, is going to be there.
Mr. Matt.
Former SWAT operator for Las Vegas Metro.
Nice.
And we're just trying to share some experience and answer some questions and
Awesome.
hopefully spike some interest. And yeah,
Cool.
Yeah.
so it should be good.
That sounds awesome.
So let's talk about the things they can ask questions in. So like, what self-defense? Let's talk about self-defense.
Let's do it.
I think a lot of people get like confused on that. Like they're like, okay, how do I karate chop somebody?
Yeah, and that's a common misconception. Is obviously movies.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, everything's.
Or they just think they just need to kick them in the balls.
Yes. It's like, oh,
Don't do that.
It's like, yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of ruined society today.
For sure.
Nice.
So yeah, we're going to talk about that too at the seminar. We want people to ask more questions about that, but sadly today is dangerous. I mean, and even here in Las Vegas, it's dangerous.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many places you can go, and I mean, you can just think about. I mean, you can go to the gas station and be, oh, there's a bunch of cars, metro cars over there, and police cars, and what are they doing over there, and why is that guy getting arrested? And your family's around. I mean, you can go to Walmart, and you've got sketchy people around there. You got a lot of people with mental illness, shootings, and it's just not very safe out there right now. So the more you can prepare yourself, the more you can be trained to handle those situations, the better. Now, again, you don't have to go do kung fu and get out there and start karate chopping. A lot of it actually starts with just situational awareness, which is what we talk a lot about. Just
Number
being aware.
one.
Yep.
Number one.
It solves 99% of your problems if you can just be situationally aware. Whether you're by yourself, with your family, knowing what's going on around you solves like 99% of those problems. Because when you look at the people who are getting into those situations, how did you get that situation? Why were you down that dark alley? Why were you, hanging around, where there's a bunch of thugs and stuff like that? So
do you have a personal example of where your situational awareness prevented you from being in a bad situation? Like not like, from a tactical, you were, but I'm talking like everyday life, where just because you knew what was going on, that you're like, oh, you know what, I need to not be in this situation.
Yeah, I think a lot of it, and it is tough because, I mean, I've got a lot of family in Utah. I go back and forth between Utah and here.
Yep.
And you would think Utah is a super duper safe place, which it is, but you see in almost any city now in America, there's a huge homeless population.
Yep.
And usually with those homeless populations, you get people who are they don't care. They'll steal, they'll commit crimes, they'll do anything. They just don't care, number one. And number two, you got a lot of mental illness. So they're just not getting the help that they need. And so you've got just people acting out and doing things that are just absolutely crazy, So I think to answer that question, a lot of the situations that I've been in has just been around those homeless people who are just like suffering from mental illness or acting crazy and stuff. And I can see it, I can address it, and then basically choose a different route. Okay, I don't want to go over there, and whether I'm by myself, with my daughter, whoever, I can get out of there and just not put myself in that situation.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And that's the main thing. Like I kind of wanted for you to bring out is the situational awareness of like not being on your phone when you're leaving a store. And because we've done these like self-defense seminars and things like that, and and people are expecting, it's like, all right, let's how do I break this grip, right?
I know, it's almost boring. Like I feel bad because like we'll go hold these seminars and these people are like, okay, like we're gonna learn how to shoot people, right? And I'm like, I mean, we can go over it, but like honestly, we're gonna spend all of our time on how just to get your head up and not be looking down. And we'll put people in those situations. Like we even ran some scenarios out here in the back with some vehicles and stuff like that. Where I kind of popped around the corner and the hood, or Matt was there in the hood or whatever. And it's funny to watch people just not know how to handle the most simple of a situation just because they're just not aware. And I think the biggest issue nowadays is just that complacency. It's people, you don't want to admit that you could potentially be in a bad situation during the day. You want to just live in that bubble of safety and security, which is kind of a downfall, because when you put yourself in that mentality of, oh, nothing's going to happen to me, I'm good, I'm good, I'm going to go about my day, I do this every day, nothing ever happens, you get complacent, and it's that one time, and all of a sudden you're in a bad spot, and it can go from bad to worse really quick.
And the thing is the brain doesn't know what to do.
That's
right?
exactly right.
And
if it hasn't seen it before, then it has nothing to draw on, so the mind literally blanks out. It just freezes. It just doesn't know what to do. But if you go through these courses, or you even talk about it, scenarios, it's like those little fire drills you used to do in elementary schools. Like actually, it feeds your brain something to chew on, so that when something happens, you have something to fall back on. Otherwise, your brain is wired to freeze. It freezes out.
Yeah, so that's called the flight or fight. Right. So we have in our brain, we have receptors that basically, in a stressful situation, when we come to that wall, right? We have a fight or flight response. So our body needs to learn how to address that situation, and you can basically program it to respond how you need to. Where a lot of people don't do that. They don't train, they don't practice, they haven't put themselves in stressful situations, and so they get in that situation and they just will shut down. They can't control it because their body just freezes. And you'll see people do that. You'll see women, literally people just faint, and there's because they're just they go into this like shock, and they don't know how to respond it. And it's and I've seen it a ton of times, which is why, again, we'll talk more about like police type stuff, but as a police officer, in law enforcement, what you do is you get put in scenarios. So you'll do live scenarios where you are put in these. They try and do stress inoculation. So they try and get as close as they can to putting as much stress on you as they can, so that when you're in these stressful situations, your body's just so used to it, you're so trained, you're so desensitized to it that you just know how to respond, and so again, it just goes back to training. It goes back to doing the repetitions over and over and over and over.
That makes sense, man.
It like, I was watching this movie, and there's this part where I think it was like 2012 where things were like flooding. It was in New York, and people weren't like knowing what to do.
Yeah.
And there's this big almost tsunami that's coming towards this guy, and I'm like, run. But this guy was just looking at it, just like about to just absorb him. I'm like, run, get out of there, you know. But it's like, it's that. In his mind, he never would have thought that a tsunami was going to be coming just right into him.
That's right.
You know, even if he could have just gone to higher ground, he would have survived a little bit more. But he just didn't know.
Well, and that's the sad part.
To do.
That's the sad part. They've done studies on, and I know we've referenced this before, but it's worth bringing it up again. They've done survivalist studies where, ships that are sinking or hotels that have burned down, and you'd have like the kitchen and the dining room with like 8 or 9 people sitting around the table, all burnt to death because they didn't realize what was going on. They all froze and they all burnt. And it's like, how did you not know there was a fire? And no one moved.
Wow.
And same thing with sinking ship, where they were in those locations. My brother does rock climbing, and one of the drills that he does is he falls on a regular basis. He practices falls, so he knows what that feels like. So that when you're falling and you do slip up and you fall, you know how to fall and you know how to recover from a fall, and you don't get freaked out by the fall. So it's not just the repetition, but it's also opening your mind to the things that, oh yes, there could be a gunman that comes in, knowing where the emergency exits are. Those simple things. So I could imagine the questions you get in these kind of seminars.
And again,
like, are we going to learn how to punch people? It's like, no. Look, first of all, let's do the basics.
Yeah. When you walk in, look at the exits. I mean, because it takes 2 seconds to do that. I can walk in. There's big bright signs that say exit in red, and it's bright, and it's like, it took me 2 seconds. And it's funny, the more you train, the more you do this, the more it becomes second nature. Like, my daughter even knows, and we laugh about this, like, we'll go in, I'll take her to like a breakfast, and she goes, oh Dad, do you want to sit there? And I'm like, yep. Because she knows that I want to sit with my back against the wall to where I can see the door.
That's right.
And she goes, "So yeah, you can watch the door." And I'm like, "Yep, exactly." And then we switched the other day, and I'm like, "All right, I'm going to trust you. Like, I'm going to put you. I want you to watch the door, you know." But she knows that we can walk in. She goes, and there's just, like I said, the more you train, the more you practice, it just becomes second nature. Where people think you have to be all tactical and you have to do all these crazy stuff, and it's the simplest of things that can really make a difference.
I would imagine it's not just being vigilant, but sometimes all you need to do is just be more vigilant than the next guy. Like if there's 5 people and you're the one that's kind of being aware, you think some vandal is going to come up to you? No,
it's the whole bear chasing situation. Yes. Like, who's going to run faster?
That's right. That's right. And so they're going to pick on the people who are not aware of what's going on, and because these are your targets.
Yes.
And this goes for whether it's child abduction, whether it's assault. They've done these studies. It's like there's the common theme, or one of the common themes, and you're the expert, but one of the common themes is not, oh, they were big or they were small or they were female, but people who were aware, they just didn't want to deal with. They didn't want to deal with it. But
these are weak men. These are weak people that are trying to prey on weak people.
Right, exactly.
Right?
So victim, right? So we took there's a whole, there's philosophies, there's classes you can take on victimology and stuff like that. I've taken a bunch. And I've talked with victims, I've interviewed victims, I've interviewed criminals. Like I've actually sat down and interviewed criminals and asked questions like, why did you pick this person? Why were you drawn to that person? What were you thinking when you went and did that? And you can look these up online. There's so much research done on this, but
I feel like the CCW course has a video on that, right?
Yep, it does. Yep. So, and it's important to realize that, because if you can make those little changes and put yourself in a position where you're not a victim, it is way less likely that individual is going to target you. Because when you are sloppy, we talk about being in shape, right? There's more than there's plenty of benefits to being in shape, right? Obviously, physically you're healthy, you're strong, but like if I was gonna go and I see you on the street, the second I see you, I'm like, that guy works out. Yeah. You know, because you can tell, and you don't have to be big. I mean, we've got plenty of guys here in the gym who are small dudes, and I'm like, that guy works out. Like he looks like he's in shape. Yeah. So, you know, we talk about self-defense, right? The first thing is situational awareness. That second thing is going to be the presence, right? And so police officers do this a lot because when you see a police officer and the guy's got his shirt all untucked and he's got a mustard stain right here, and he's overweight and he's a little bit chubby and he's only got 2 things on his belt because it can't fit anything else. And it's sad, and you see those guys all the time. The guy, and I've interviewed criminals. The guy who's going to want to fight that officer is that's the officer who's going to fight. Is the guy who just I can take that guy. I'm going to fight back. I don't want to go to jail
on those videos, and it's kind of sad.
It's way sad. But you see the guy who looks like a Marine drill instructor. And he's got a high and tight, and his like uniform is spray painted on, and he's just like he's got the vein,
biceps are popping out.
They're not messing with that guy. I mean, you got to be higher than a guy. I mean, it'll happen. I'm not saying it's not, but
you can mitigate risk. You may not be able to eliminate risk, but you can at least mitigate it.
Yeah, 100%.
That's a presence. I like that. So situational awareness.
Situational awareness. Presence. So because same thing. So we talk about this. If you know you're in a situation that you can't avoid, you're on a bus, you're in a 7-Eleven. I mean, you're wherever, Walmart, and you start getting attention from some thugs. You get attention from some people who are wanting to cause problems or want to rob you or whatever. If you have that presence, if you look well kept, if you look like you can handle yourself, if you look like you train jiu-jitsu and you train Muay Thai or boxing, and you make good eye contact, like there's a line, because you want to detach. You don't want to get into their world, because I can know that they're there because I've got situational awareness, but I don't want to be like making I don't want to connect with them because that's going to draw them towards me. I don't want that, right? But if I'm in a situation where I can't help that, or they come up to me or whatever, good eye contact, and I'm like postured good. I'm not like I want to fight, but I'm like, what's up? You know, like that guy's, you know, little things like that make a big difference.
These people want the least resistance possible.
That's right.
So let's say you're on your phone, right, and this guy's approaching you because you just look vulnerable, right?
Immediate upper hand, because you have no idea he's
immediate there. But if you notice, if you just wake up a little bit and notice him coming, like, and if you acknowledge him,
say, hey, what's up?
You're gonna lower your chance of getting robbed, right? Because they don't want to be acknowledged, right?
Yes,
they don't. They're like, hey, what are you doing, or whatever it is, like acknowledging them, and they're like, okay, I'm just walking close to you today. You know,
is that cool?
People get awkward. It is obviously awkward to have someone like walk up to you when you're walking to your car. And we went over this in some of the courses.
I bet
it is awkward to have someone start following you, especially if you're a female, and you're walking your car after work, whatever, and some guy starts following you. You don't want to start conversation, because like we just talked about, when you start addressing too much, then it's like an open invitation. We want to try and keep that keep that attached as best as possible. However, yes, like there is a line that gets crossed, and we call that the bubble, right? Your personal bubble, and everyone's got different sizes of that.
But when
yeah, exactly, right there. Yep. So super uncomfortable.
This bubble,
super uncomfortable.
My bubble, I love it.
So, but when they cross that bubble, that's when like you have every right to like say, hey, I don't want you getting any closer to me. I feel uncomfortable. Like that line right there. Hey, I don't want you getting any closer to me. I feel uncomfortable. Like, and you're doing this because I'm physically showing you that like this is my line. Like, don't. The second that they keep pressing that, man, if there's a witness or anyone else by, you got every articulation that like that guy was obviously unwanted contact.
Right.
I mean, it helps and it looks good, and everyone's got phones nowadays. But
I love that. That right there is important. I think that arm thing.
Yep.
Hey, listen, you're getting too close. I don't know what you want, but come any closer and whatever. Don't come any closer.
Exactly.
Yep.
Hey, don't come any closer. I don't know what you want, but have a good day.
Stop. Yep. Exactly. So we talk about that. Another thing we talk about, and I wanted to hit on this, ego.
Ooh.
Ego is not your amigo.
Ego is not your amigo.
We would always say that. Ego is not your amigo.
Okay, explain.
So here's the thing. With fights, with self-defense, with the street, we'll call it, right?
Streets.
With the streets. When you're put in a situation, let's say this, 9 times out of 10, when you're in a situation, let's say you're at a bar, let's say you're at a restaurant, you're out there, you're with your girl, and some guy comes up, starts causing problems, right? As a male, as a guy, right? it is very difficult for us not to want to defend our female. Right. We want to stick up for them. We want to.
I see red.
We want to puff up the chest. We want. It's that alpha. Like, hey, you're stepping on some territory right here, right? Yep. I'll give you a secret. If you want to win a fight, walk away.
Really?
Like run. No one is forcing you unless it is a situation, and like I say
an
this
elevator or something.
Yeah, unless you're like can't go anywhere and you're at that line, like nobody is forcing you to fight, because guess what? The second you make that decision, you are now putting yourself in a 50-50 spot of either A, you're going to be okay afterwards and maybe go home, or B, you for sure are getting cops called at some point. You for sure are getting interviewed. You for sure might get arrested. You for sure might end up in jail. You for sure might get a black eye. You for sure might have other problems. You for sure might put yourself in a situation where all his friends start ganging up on you. You open up the door to so many more problems compared to just walking away. Because when I walk away, I guarantee I'm waking up the next morning in my bed all nice and fine. Right? Now, it's the ego that stops us. It's knowing that, like, I walked away from that, and I could have beat up that guy. I could have just ended him. He could have been in a hospital bed. But, like, I'm not going to put myself in that situation because it's just not worth it. Right?
I could end you.
Yeah.
It's like that video. It's like that video where I think I saw it on Instagram, but it was this guy getting loud, and then he was on the upper stand. He was getting loud to this guy on the bottom. This guy was just smiling.
Yeah.
Smiling.
He was what's his name? I know what you're talking about. He's a professional
boxer.
Really, really good boxer.
Oh, really?
He was a professional boxer.
World-class boxer,
and the look that he gave, he literally turned around.
Grin.
He was grinning.
Yeah.
He's like, if you only knew. If you only knew. If you come into my world.
So they did a montage of him afterwards of all his different fights of him fighting. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
It was a great video.
Yeah.
But it's a perfect example. Because that situation could have ended his career.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Yep.
Again, 100% you're on camera. 100% you're on video. Yep. There's a very, very good chance cops are getting called. You're gonna get, again, as a former police officer, you will be interviewed. Yep. Like whether you did something wrong or right, you will be interviewed. And unfortunately, even now that things are getting a little bit better in today's society, you will probably be going to jail. Like it just the way I've seen countless.
You're going to jail.
Yeah, you're going to jail. Even if like.
Wow.
We were just talking about a situation. There was a jiu-jitsu guy, brown belt, went to the bar with his wife. Guy slapped his wife's ass.
Oh my gosh.
Turned around. He also practiced Muay Thai. Pop. Knee. Guy was down, and he ended up going to jail. He served the night in jail. But you'd think like, self-defense. He's good to go. Nope. He had a fine. Went to jail.
A fine.
Everything. Yep. So
really,
it's
what did they fine him with?
That I don't know, but it's putting yourself in a situation again that's just not. You're rolling the dice, and it's just not. Again, I say that 99% of the time. There is that 1% where it's like, okay, hard, I'm up against a wall. Yeah. I'm in a position I can't get out of. He put his hands on me. Like the hands are going. You made that decision. Okay, then it's go time. That is where the training kicks in. That is where you practice jiu-jitsu. That is where you practice all that stuff.
Is the 1%.
Is the 1%. Yeah, you hope you don't have to use it, but when you do use it, you're taking care of business. Yeah.
Taking care of business.
You're taking care of business. Game's over.
Breaking necks and cashing checks.
So then that brings us to the next numbers, right? So when you do have to do that and the hands go on, right? That is what I think is a huge lack in training. And you'll know when you're at you know when you've gotten good training, because a lot of guys will practice the actual physical stuff, like the hands-on things and how to handle a situation. But for me, it's always been mentality. Because physically you can fight or do stuff, but it's I'm going to win. I'm going to solve this problem.
Low power mode.
Oh no,
it's fine.
It's having that mentality.
It's having the mentality that you are not going to lose.
Yeah, you're fine. You'll
the second you half-ass that, you're putting yourself. You could be super well trained. Super well trained, man. Yep. It takes one little hook, one little mistake, I mean, we train on jiu-jitsu, right? We train on mats. Nice, comfy mats, right? There's no mats outside. It is concrete and asphalt, and it does not feel good. You know what I mean? So you might be like super good at doing some takedown, but if I take you down, and even though you've practiced falls and you know how to get taken down and all that, and you're good to go, you get slammed on the concrete, man. It is a rude awakening. You're like, that's not fun. Yeah. So
well, judo is a submission. It was the first submissions, right, or something like that. Like like because judo is just throwing. So if you know how to throw somebody,
yep, you're good.
That's it.
Yeah,
literally, like game over.
So it's again, it's a rude awakening. It's realizing that again, situational awareness pops into it because you could know how to fight, you could do something, but like, did you see that he's got 5 friends that are all drunk and like wanting to jump in and you're on the ground and now you're getting your head kicked in. It's just like it's just not worth it. So
well, that's the thing. It's like you're putting yourself in that situation.
Right.
It's like you're at a bar. There's
alcohol involved. It's late.
Correct. You're already in a susceptible situation. At that point, you know, it's like, come on.
There's something to be said about
looking
that.
for trouble.
There's something to be said about that. There's something to be said about that.
Especially, it's like, so there was this guy yesterday that walked in, literally like a 40, just like chilling right in the front, just open carry. I'm like, look at this guy. Like what? Just it's a I don't know, man.
We've had some good talks about that, and I've got some very strong opinions about that.
Okay, so let's talk about that.
Okay,
let's talk about.
This is where things get.
I've got such a strong opinion.
Let's talk about open carries.
I love it.
Yes, let's talk
about.
Let's
talk about open carry. Then you can go for that.
We're in the state of Nevada, right? Okay. It is an open carry state.
Okay,
so what does that? What does that mean?
Who don't know, people don't know. What does open carry mean?
Open carry means that you can open carry a firearm, and it is legal. So if you want to have a holster on your hip that is visible and everybody else can see, and you want to put a gun in that and walk around, you are totally fine. Okay. Now, there are some laws around that. You don't get to go everywhere with that. Okay. So I cannot go into a school open carry. Okay. I can't go into a government building open carry, so including a post office, most banks, right? Okay. And then any private property. Now, this is where there's so much misunderstanding with private property. And we can talk about this too because it gets into like a lot of police questions I get about this and trespassing and stuff, but it does have to do with open firearms because people who do that are usually pretty gung-ho about it. Like they're like, obviously they're wanting to make a statement like, I can open carry. It's like, yeah, you can, 100%. You're good to go. Yep. But the second you walk onto a McDonald's property and they're like, you need to leave, I'm allowed to open carry. It's like, yes, but you're on private property. Right. So you need to leave. Right. And they think that they have a right to stay. So private property is any business or residence where the owner can say, I want you to leave, and you have to leave. You don't have a right to be at McDonald's. Got it. So that's where we kind of get into a tricky situation because people think that they just have a right, and then it gets into this like he said, she said, cops get called, and there's a bunch of problems, and it just goes downhill from there. Right. So open carry, you can open carry a firearm anywhere in the state except for those places. Okay. So gets us into the conversation of
your opinion
on it, right? All right. We've gotten pretty deep into these conversations. We were holding some classes. Here's why I'm against it. If you can get a CCW, you need to get a CCW.
And what's a CCW?
So CCW is a concealed weapons permit. Okay. Right. Now with Trump getting in, it's changed a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of laws that are going to be put into place where they're trying to do basically like a nationwide law that allows you to conceal carry without a permit.
So got it. No so instead of the fractured 50-state thing,
so Utah is a state that you do not need a concealed weapons permit to conceal carry.
Got it.
Yes.
Isn't that scary?
Yes and no. Yes and no. And again, there's a lot of debate on that because constitutionally, yes, you should have the right to bear arms and conceal carry that firearm. But there's a process that you have to go through to get a permit. Now, I think the process is good because what it does is it basically makes you fill out certain paperwork. Yeah. You have to have certain information. You got to have your fingerprints done. You got to have a background check done. You have to get vetted. Basically, you cannot be a felon. You can't be on the sex offender registry. Couple other things. Okay. You have to be an American citizen. So all those things are good because it basically is making sure that not just anybody can walk around with a firearm. Right. Now, most of those also include a 4-hour class where you're having to take a test. You're having to shoot and prove that you are proficient and you know what you're doing. You know how to store it. You know how to load it. You know what it is. You know how to manipulate it. You know the laws. Because, again, I can hand you a firearm and you might be really good. We might go shoot every day. Right. And, I hand it to you, but, you leave and you go accidentally see some dude and shoot him because he looks like a bad guy.
Right.
Do you know the laws about that?
Right.
Do you know the laws about if you do rightfully shoot somebody and defend yourself, what happens after that?
Yes.
Was it good? Was it bad? Was it good shoot? So there's a lot of laws. Can you take it out? When is it okay to expose it and take it out and present it?
Interesting.
Right?
Interesting.
Because there's a lot of laws about that. So we talked about this. I disagree with the open carry for a couple reasons because number one, if I see a guy in a store walking around with an open carry, like number one, you're the elephant in the room.
Literally.
Like everybody is looking at you, which is usually why they do that, because they like the fact that they're like getting away with it. They're like, you can't, I'm allowed to do this. You know, it's like, yeah, but you also look dumb. Like, because you probably got that whole stuff, at Walmart, and you don't know how to use that firearm, and it's, So the other thing is when you're open carrying, it creates a lot of problems for the individual. Yeah. Because if you're open carrying and you're literally checking out at, the store or something like that, you have to be aware, like more than normal of your surroundings. Yeah, I would because you got a kid that's like, oh look, shiny, and they like, or some guys like wants to go take that from you. Oh, the weapon retention, because now that's your responsibility. That's like right. If you go to the bathroom, like you can't. I know this sounds stupid, but like when you go to the bathroom, you got a firearm in your hip. You got to take. If you got to sit down, you got to take it off, right? I can't tell you how many times as a cop we got called because people would forget their firearms in the bathroom stall.
You've got to be kidding me.
Gosh.
So huge problem, right? That is a crime. FYI, that's a crime, right? Because
good to know.
When like my 7-year-old goes in there afterwards, it's like,
oh man.
And you left the firearm in there. Guess whose fault that is? Like that's yours.
I mean, that is your responsibility.
So it's your responsibility. Wow. So that's another issue with it. There's just a lot of problems that come with it that I'm like, again, if you are, the reason why you carry a firearm is for self-defense, right? So let's say you're in a 7-Eleven and you're open carrying and some guy comes in and starts to rob it, or some thug comes in, right? And you're there and you got a firearm on your hip. Who do you think he's shooting first? Right. Like, right. I mean, you're now a target too. The whole point is of concealing is to conceal. You don't want people knowing that you're carrying unless you need to, right? So there's just a lot of problems that come with it. Just get a concealed weapons permit. Yeah. It's a lot easier.
So about the Utah not having a concealed. So if I move to Utah right now, I can just conceal carry.
That's correct.
If I have the firearm.
Yeah.
Correct. Right.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah. They changed that law. I want to say 2 years ago.
I'm a pro gun guy, but I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah.
Because I kind of like the process.
Again, I haven't looked because I go to Utah a lot. I haven't lived there for a little while. I don't know what other stipulations come with that.
Yeah.
But I do know that you don't need a permit to conceal carry if you want to conceal carry.
Wow.
Interesting.
Yeah. I'm assuming there's still the same laws that apply, like, you can't carry in certain places and all that kind of stuff. So another one that people forget too is drinking. So obviously there's nothing you want to drink.
Or whatever that is. Or smoking.
Smoking, yeah. So, you got, man, sadly in the law enforcement community and the military community, you got a lot of guys who like to drink, and that's okay. But you got to remember that if you're going out to the bar or you're going out on a weekend or something like that and you want to carry your gun, I mean, that's a no-go.
No.
That's a no-no because you can't be intoxicated with a deadly weapon. So you got to be careful about that kind of stuff. So
and that's any intoxication.
Yeah, and that's any dangerous weapon too.
Even a knife.
Yeah, if you're going to use it in a threatening manner. Yeah, a knife. Yeah, same thing. Yep. So if anything happens and that gets drawn into question,
like
it a lot depends on the situation. But
Wow.
Yeah, if you're intoxicated with a dangerous, I've charged people with that a lot actually. Yeah, so I'll a lot of people forget that, in certain situations, and they have a firearm on them or some type of weapon. That's an extra charge. That is a possession of a dangerous weapon while intoxicated or under the influence.
Wow.
Yeah.
You probably see that more often than not.
Yep. People forget that. So, any other questions about firearms?
No, I do have a question though.
Yeah.
I'll turn it.
Go ahead.
So, have you heard about the subway case in New York City?
Which one?
The guy, yeah, exactly. Good point. The one
the one that just got exonerated.
Yeah, the one that just got exonerated, where How do you think about this situation?
What,
data point of one. So
I don't even know.
So basically,
what happened?
The crazy guy comes on. I think he was under the influence or something. Who knows? He was threatening people or being loud, and people felt and expressed at the time and after the fact during interviews that they felt threatened. This guy, I think former Marine, former military or something, put him in a chokehold and held it too long and or squeezed too hard and or did his training and or was it whatever, trying to help him. He had some other people hold him down. Race didn't play into it, even though the guy was black. He was white, but some of the people they were helping were black. And the guy died.
He died?
Yes. Yep. The cause of death, I forget what the rule of cause of death was. So long story short is he was in a subway car. It was moving. I'm presuming it was moving. Closed space. So how do you think about that whole situation? Like, what does one do if... Because crazy people are always going to exist. And I can tell you, in New York, in Seattle and all that, like you said, the homeless... It's a very fine line between they're crazy and they actually might do something and I can't get out of this space. So how do you again, opinion of one, Quintin's opinion.
If you were in that situation.
So there's a lot of factors that here's the thing, man. There's not a black and white answer, and even the law is difficult, and that's why things get appealed and go to Supreme Court, and that's why they go back and forth because there's just so much gray area, and so you guys know. So when you go to court and you're in front of a jury of your peers, they are having to put themselves in your shoes at that time, and basically, make a decision if they would have done that or not. Yeah. Right. So there's so many factors that get played into that. Like, and something that people forget too, is training and experience. Yeah. So a black belt SWAT operator who's like off duty and gets in a fight with somebody is going to be held at a different standard than a 130-pound female clerk. You know what I mean? With no experience. So experience, because they're gonna say that, like, you're trained. You know what to do. You know how to handle that situation. So training comes into play. So that came into play in the case, right? Because he was trained. Right. He's had experience, which is why he can kind of know what to do. Another thing that gets put into play is what is reasonable. So you'll hear that a lot with this type of stuff, especially with self-defense, is what is reasonable. So if you smack me, right, technically it's assault, right? You assaulted me. It was unwanted. You hit me. You struck me. Didn't want it.
Or was it?
And if I was right, it wasn't. This gets into the dark hours.
I love it. Yeah, that's Smashcast after hours.
After hours. So if you hit me and I take out a knife and I stab you in the stomach, right? It's not reasonable, right? Why?
Right. Got it. Because it's
out of proportion.
Out of proportion. Completely
totally not reasonable, right? Yeah. So you have to kind of match.
Interesting.
And that's where it gets a little bit tricky too, is like, well, that guy like hit me and I smashed him in the face with a baseball bat. Right. They're going to be like, okay, that was excessive. You can't do that. That's not the right self-defense. So even we go over this in CCW too. It's why there's a lot of problems with people getting in a situation and they just got their CCW or their CCW carrier and they're in a bad situation and they're like, oh my gosh, it's go time.
This is it's go time.
It's happening. And they pull out their gun in like a totally uncalled for situation and they go to jail because you can't do that,
you get
right?
charged for murder.
Yeah. And so because it's serious. And so that gets put into play a lot. Is it reasonable? So, and again, I'll even relate that to questions on just basically like self-defense, right? Is what do I do in that situation? What is reasonable, right? What do you think would be reasonable to match and or barely go over whatever that is, right? Got it. So like if someone's got a stick, you don't have to take out a stick. You can take out something a little bit. And police are trained the same way. If somebody takes out their fist, you can go to a non-lethal tool. If they take out a gun, I'm not going to take out a pepper spray. I'm taking out my gun. Right. And so it's always trying to make sure that you are reasonably, and vice versa, right? If someone, again, and this happens, if someone just holds up their fist and you got an officer who freaks out, doesn't know how to handle the situation, to take out their gun, that's not good. That is a use of force situation. You got to go do a whole paperwork on that. You can get in trouble with that. So
Wow. So based off of that answer, you think that the guy used excessive force?
I don't know enough about that case, and I didn't follow that closely enough to have. I don't want to throw an opinion on that, but I do feel like he was doing what he was at that moment in time, what he was trying to do, which was detain. That was his whole goal. Was I need to detain this person and keep him from causing harm, which is reasonable. Yep. So now what sucks is that caused someone's death because it got pushed to that. But again, in law, you'll look at law and it's everything goes back to intent. Yeah. Everything goes back to intent. What was the intent?
Yeah, and that's where things are squishy.
When it gets put in a question, it is like, okay, well, what was the intent? Did they mean to do that? And that actually holds a lot of weight into that was intent. So
that's helpful. That's helpful. Thank you for that. Appreciate that.
Well, it's just tough because it's like again, we don't know the case. We don't know so it's like, was the guy drugged up? Where his
and sometimes you don't even know at the time. Did he have a pre-existing heart condition? Did he have XYZ? It's like, but if this guy's threatening, it's like, I don't know. Like, when do I step in and when I don't?
He got put in a chokehold, basically.
Yeah, he was in a chokehold, and I don't remember. I think the guy either was drugged up and or had a existing condition, and or a combination of that, such that the chokehold didn't kill him, but it precipitated something that eventually did. Is what I understand it.
Okay, so the chokehold didn't per se kill them.
That's what I don't know. Yeah, because technically, if that part. Yeah, if something else caused it, then you can't be held accountable for. Yeah.
Because if I put you in a chokehold and I kill you, then my chokehold killed you.
Here's the weird thing: but if you were to push someone off a balcony, 5 stories, and they splat on the ground, the cause of death is blunt force trauma, right? But it's like, well, yeah, but someone pushed him off the balcony. So that's where things get a little bit weird. It's like, well, yes, he would not have had the blunt force trauma unless he was thrown off the balcony. So there were some of the weird issues here. But I think the intent was interesting because I think they did bring that out. I think they brought the excessive force argument out as well. Mm-hmm. Was it too much for what was going on at the time? But it's interesting. It's like, it sucks because no one else was. The other issue is, then a couple weeks later, or even just recently. I mean, not a couple weeks later, but after the exoneration, then you got this lady that was set on fire, and no one did anything. They were just filming it and just watching it happen. So at some point, you're like, what does that? I don't have the answer to this, but it is interesting. It's like, well, if I don't want to get in trouble with the law, I don't do anything. But then I'm watching this unfold. Yeah. And is there a light that or a switch that happens in your head that says, look, I know I'm going to take a risk by doing this, but I have to do something, even if it means me going to the jail or whatever. I don't know. I don't know how to answer that.
Yeah, and that's why we got to be careful. That's why, again, we go over this in our courses and our classes, and I've practiced this. You always need to ask yourself, is it worth putting myself in this situation? Yep. Is it worth it? I'll be honest with you. Yeah. I've got a lot of training, got a lot of experience. You will never see me put myself in a situation unless my life is at danger or someone else. I'm like, that's going to go bad super quick. Or someone is threatening my family. Yeah. That's a no-go. I'm okay. I'm okay serving the night in jail. But I mean, it's tough because you really have to look at it and be like, is it worth myself putting that? Yeah. And it's tough. It's really tough because the average response time for police right now is over 10 minutes. So
that's an eternity.
We talk about that too in our courses. Is
interesting.
People are like, well, I'm good. I'll just call 911. Okay, well, good luck sitting on the line for a while, and then good luck waiting 10 minutes while stuff's going down. Yeah. And you're waiting for a cop to show up, and hope you get a good cop who knows what he's doing and who's trained, because you might also get a 12-year-old who just got hired on, doesn't know what he's doing. So. Okay. It's tough, and that's why we train. That's why you need to prepare. That's why you need to have firearms and train with them. That's why you have to know how to, practice good home defense, and know what to do in public, because no one's gonna come. No one's gonna save you. You got to save yourself. Yeah. We hear that all the time. No one's coming.
No one's coming.
No one's coming. You got to save yourself. Yeah.
So. They're coming, but they're coming to.
It's gonna be a while.
It's gonna.
You can't depend on it.
They're there to collect. And charge.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
So that is what we're going to be talking about in this free seminar. If you guys have any questions,
come with questions.
Yes. Yeah, I like it.
Anything about law too. So how to. When we're going to go over this, we held a course about how to interact with law enforcement.
Oh, so that's a great one.
We want to do that as part of the questions we want to ask is, if I get pulled over, what do I do? Yeah. What should I do?
Yeah.
People ask me all the time, what's my best way of getting out of a ticket? Well, we go over that.
Sure.
We'll answer those questions for you. I taught a couple, this is about 2 years ago, really funny. Taught them. We ran them through a scenario, answered all their questions. They called me like 3 days later, and they go, "You're never going to believe what happened." I go, "You got pulled over, didn't you?" They're like, "Yep, we got pulled over." And I was, "Did you get a ticket?" They're like, "Nope." They're like, "It worked. It was awesome. We did everything you said." And the officer was super impressed about how we handled the situation.
Wow.
We were good. We thank you so much. So, again,
that's a cool question.
Yeah, we want you guys to come with questions about how to interact with law enforcement, what to do in certain situations, what to do at home, what to do. We can answer all that for you. Yeah.
Yes.
February 22nd, Saturday.
Yep.
3 o'clock.
3:30.
3:30. Sorry, 3:30.
3:30, February 22nd.
You can come a little before. We'll be around.
Yes.
Yep. That's cool, man.
So if you could come at 3, come at 3, and we'll figure that out. And I can't wait. Oh,
yeah.
And if you guys want to bring your firearms, leave your clips in the car.
Magazine.
Sorry.
What's the number one thing to upset Quintin?
I said it. I really said it. I did it.
Leave your magazine.
Yes, leave your magazines in your car. Don't bring any ammo.
And don't bring your clips. Don't bring your clips.
Yes.
I love it. It's like a little tweaking.
Leave your mags in the car.
Love it.
And we can explain gun safety, right, with their own kind of stuff, because I know a lot of people literally buy and they literally just store it and they don't even know how to use it. They've never used it. Yeah. They don't even know how to use they don't know how to break it down.
Yep.
Right.
So we can go over that. We'll go over firearm safety, firearm storage, how to handle it around children, where to put it in your house, how to store it, all that good stuff.
Awesome.
Cool.
Yep. Well, let's wrap that up, guys.
Let's wrap it up.
Thank you, everybody, for joining this Smashcast.
Thank you for coming today,
yes,
bro.
Thanks for the guest.
Are we in your bubble?
Yep. Yes. Let's get in this bubble.
Super in my bubble.
Thank you guys for joining us in Smashcast number 61. Catch us next week, February 22nd at 3 o'clock, 3:30 for the free tactical seminar.
Get down here.
Peace.
Awesome.